Hi everyone, today I'm going to be showing you how to do color changes using the magic knot technique. This technique works best when your piece has an inside and an outside, so that way you can hide all of these little knots on the inside of the piece. I use this for clothing items because you can hide the seam on the inside. If your piece is reversible and there's no distinct front or back, this may not be the best technique for your specific piece. To show how to do this, I'm going to be using this pattern test that I'm working on, which is designed by my friend Daisy May. You can find her over on Instagram at Hooking with Daisy May. I thought this would be a good piece to show you guys this technique on because as you can see, I did have to change colors every single row, and typically when you do that, you would have a whole bunch of ends that you would have to go back and weave in afterwards. But all I have left are these little knots right at the edge of the piece. This works great for this piece because we will end up seaming the sides together and they'll be hidden in that seam, and if anything shows through at all, it's on the inside of the piece and not visible when you're wearing it. To do this color change properly, we're going to be working it right as we finish the last stitch of our round and before we start the next round. What I'm going to do here is just take out the last little bit of my stitch because we're going to do the color change right before we finish this double crochet. So I'm just going to take out the whole stitch so that you can see it. So normally we would go in and just put our last stitch here, in this case a double crochet, and I'm going to start that stitch. So I have 3 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull through 2, but I'm not going to finish the stitch. Instead, I'm going to leave it with both loops on my hook still, and I'm going to go and grab my second color. You'll need to make sure that both loops stay on your hook so that way you don't accidentally take out the stitch while you're doing the color change. So I've grabbed my new yarn. In this case, I'm using a darker purple, and we're going to pull it up right beside our current yarn. We're going to start by making a small loop around our first color. So I'm taking my new color and I've placed it on top, and then I'm going to push it behind. So it's coming behind the yarn. Then I'm going to lift it up, and you can see we've started to create a circle here. Then I'm going to take the end of my new yarn and I'm going to pull it through this circle that we made. So now we have a circle, but it's very loose, and before we tighten it, we need to pull it up right against our hook here. So I'm just going to move my hook down a bit, and then we're going to pull this knot all the way down to the bottom. Once we get it as tight as we can, we're going to start tightening our knot. So I like to hold both of the ends at the same time while I do this, so that way I can tighten it and push it right up against my hook here. So I'm going to keep it as close as possible and then pull both of my dark purple ends to tighten it. And I usually adjust it a little bit, and that way it's as tight as it possibly can be. Now we're going to go back and cut off our first color and make the same knot with it. I usually leave a few inches of length, that way we have enough to easily make this knot. Now with this one, we're going to make the same knot. So I'm going to start by pushing it over top of our yarn. So we have it coming out here and going on top. Then I'm going to push it back underneath, so it's back to the other side. Then we need to pull this yarn up and go through the circle. So we're going to flip this around and go through that circle that we made and pull it out. So whatever direction the yarn is coming from, we want it to go out the same direction. So the purple yarn was coming towards this way, the dark purple. We made our circle and had it come out the same way. The light purple is coming this direction. We made our circle and it's exiting that direction. Now before we tighten this one needs to be as close as possible to our first knot. So we just need to pull the ends a little bit to adjust it as close as we possibly can. Once I've got it closer, then I'll start tightening the knot, but I'll keep adjusting it a little bit as I'm tightening that knot. Then I'll pull it as tight as I can to make sure it's secured. The final thing we do before we complete our stitch is we're going to hold our hook and our new yarn, and we're going to pull them to get the final knot done. It usually shifts slightly when we do this, which is okay, but that's why we want to make sure the knots are as close as possible to the hook, expecting that it's going to shift a little bit. Now what we're going to do is just snip these ends as close to the knot as we can. Now we have a very secure knot here, and the good thing about this knot is that the more tension you put on it, the tighter and more secure the knot is. So this is great for pieces that are going to have a lot of wear, and you don't have to worry about these knots coming undone. Now we're just going to finish our stitch like normal, and our knot is going to be right on the side here. So because I was in the middle of a double crochet, I'm going to finish by yarning over and pulling through those 2 loops. And now we're starting the next row with our new color, and our knot is hidden right there in that double crochet. You can see it a little bit on this side, but again, it's going to be hidden in the seam when we finish our piece. I use this technique as much as I possibly can because it's a huge time saver with not having to weave in all of those ends at the end of your piece. But I don't use this on every single piece I make. Sometimes, like I mentioned, the knots can be visible from the outside when you're wearing it, and you don't want to compromise the look of your piece by trying to take a shortcut. So if this knot is going to be visible when you make your piece, it's probably not the best technique for you, and it might make more sense in that case to just do your color changes with a knot and having your ends to weave in at the end. I love doing this technique as well for scrap yarn pieces because I'll make the changes during rows and it'll be hidden in a stitch, and then you can make a whole bunch of changes in your hat without having any bulky places where the ends were woven in. You can use this for basically any stitch as well. If you're doing a single crochet, you would just start your stitch and then make your change right before you finish it. Same with a half double crochet as we saw, and stitches bigger. So this was just a super quick tutorial on how to do this easy color change. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did watch this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for my channel for more tutorials.